All right, love this fight. Petr Yan, Aljamain Sterling. I'm going with the underdog here, Aljamain Sterling. I just like the improvements he's made since losing to Marlon Moraes, and he's not just going out there and beating opponents, he's going out there and destroying him. I really liked that win over Corey Sandhagen, which now looks even better seeing the run that Sandhagen's been going on. I also like the fact that Sterling has switched things up, training at Extreme Couture for this fight. I think that's going to work out really well for him, getting more adequate training and being able to train with a lot more bantamweights out there than he would be back at Longo Serra back in New York. So I'm going with him. I know Jan's training an American Top Team now, but I just think, you know, Sterling's been more battle tested in the octagon in terms of level of competition. I could point to a lot more fights where Sterling has fought tougher opposition overall than Petr Yan. So I'm going to go Aljamain Sterling by decision. I don't think he finishes Petr Yan, but I think he does outwork him en route to a decision victory.
Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling is a fight I've been looking forward to for a very long time. Two really hungry guys in the bantamweight division that I think have been circling the cage, looking at each other for a while. So it's kind of got a bit of heat to it. Man, it's a tough one to call. I'm leaning Aljamain Sterling because I think his wrestling and his unorthodox striking will sort of play out of Petr Yan's traditional Muay Thai kickboxing style. So I'm going to go with Aljamain Sterling, but it wouldn't surprise me if we saw Yan pick up the victory. And if Yan does pick up the victory, he'd be a hard guy to pick against going forward. But I am picking Aljamain Sterling.
Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. You know, Aljo was my early pick, but I did talk to Uriah Faber, who told me through the grapevine that Petr Yan has apparently been working overseas, I think in Russia, on his wrestling. So it'll be interesting to see with this extended time how he can round out his game. That being said, I can only go off of what I see, and as a guy who's not super technically gifted on the breakdown department, I'll go off their resumes, and I think Aljo has the more impressive wins to this point, which is weird because he's the title challenger. But, you know, you see Petr Yan beating Uriah Faber, who, although looked great against Ricky Simon, was coming off a rather long layoff, not the most active guy at this stage, and then Jose Aldo, who fought a competitive bout, and again, another aging star. You have Corey Sandhagen looking like a really legit title contender right now, and Aljo beat him pretty handily. So I'm going to go with Sterling. I think he's beat the higher level of opposition. He's deserved this title shot for a really long time. I think the Funk Master gets it done.
Oh man, another great fight. I'm excited for this one, but I feel like I've been waiting for Aljamain to get this shot for a very long time. It just seems like Petr Yan is on a slightly different level. So I want to go with Petr Yan in this fight. I think Aljamain puts up one hell of a fight against Peter, but I think Yan is going to get it done in the end.
Probably, and I'm just picking this now because I've not thought about it. Off the top of my head, Aljamain Sterling, I just think he's fought tougher competition. Petr Yan is phenomenal, but I just think beating fighters like Jimmy Rivera, Pedro Munoz, Corey Sandhagen for Aljamain Sterling is much more impressive than beating Uriah Faber and Jose Aldo in 2019, 2020. Petr Yan, I think, is one of the three best bantamweights in the world. I'm not including TJ yet because he hasn't returned. So between like Sterling, Yan, Sandhagen, the triangle between them, like they're all going to fight and they're all going to beat each other. So they fight 10 times. I think Sterling and Yang win 5 each. But when they fight this most upcoming time, I favor Sterling.
I like Petr Yan. I know a lot of people, Aljamain Sterling calls him the paper champ or whatever. I think Sterling's in kind of for a rude awakening. I don't think he's going to be able to take Yan down. If you look at the rematch between Yan and Magomedov, Yan's takedown defense is really good. And then I think on the feet, Yan just picks him apart. And I wouldn't be surprised if Yan knocks Sterling out.
Ooh, Petr Yan versus Aljo. Man, Aljo, he has worked his way to finally get this title fight. Can he do it? Can he do it? Man, this is the fight in my head. I have a hard time visualizing. I just don't know where it's going to go because I just haven't. If Aljo beats Yan, he's probably going to do it on the ground. So he's going to hold Yan down and for 25 minutes and maybe eventually submit him. And we just haven't seen that yet. And I've seen Aljo get hit with big shots and, you know, get knocked out. Oh, guys, so it's hard to visualize Yan losing, but they all do eventually. But I don't think it's going to be this one. I think Petr Yan's going to retain. I think he's going to eventually knock out Aljo.
So Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. I just think it's a really, really close fight. I think this fight is going 5 rounds. I think it's going to be 3 rounds to 2 either way. Can Aljamain Sterling get a couple of takedowns, land some big shots and secure some rounds? Can his jab win out, or will the pressure and the jab and just the technical striking of Yan win through? I don't know. If I could pick a draw here, I would pick a draw. But maybe as we get closer to the time, my view will change. But at the moment, I'm going for Petr Yan. I think he'll just about do enough. I think his striking will be a little bit too much for Sterling, and I think he'll be able to stuff enough takedowns to win the decision here.
This is probably the most difficult fight to pick out of every fight coming up on the calendar. Jesus, man. This is so evenly matched that I don't know what to say on this one. I'm going to give the edge to Aljamain Sterling simply because I think the holes that he's plugged up with his boxing, he's always had really good kicks. That's always been something weird about him. When it didn't have hands, he had a fantastic kicking game, and his wrestling game, his submission game is off the charts. Petr Yan is one of those guys who's really good at everything, but I don't think he necessarily stands out in anything. Aljo has a couple of 5-star abilities, and I think one of those 5-star abilities should be able to get him the victory. I also see him being the more athletic guy, and that's going to play a factor too with bantamweights as fast as they are. So Aljo probably walks away with the belt.
I'm going with the upset. I like Aljamain Sterling quite a bit here. Petr Yan, obviously, well-deserved UFC bantamweight champion, but I just think Sterling on the feet can really sort of pick his shots. And then on the ground, if Sterling gets it there, which I think he could, Sterling is going to win on the ground all day. I think Petr Yan needs to make this a dogfight on the feet, but if Sterling can stay out of trouble, I think he's going to take home the title.
Aljamain Sterling, he is a gritty veteran, a guy that worked himself up through the ranks and earned the spot in this title fight. I just feel like it's the wrong time for him and the wrong opponent. And I think that Peter will be able to go in there and implement pretty much the same game plan. I've known about Peter for so long and followed him for so many years before even the UFC. And he has great scrambles. He has great wrestling. And I feel like he can combat that. The only scary moments will be, I think, in the first round, just like the Sanghagen fight, if Aljamain can take him to the ground. But I feel like even if he does, Jan will be able to defend well and get back up, and complete destruction, I think, is going to happen throughout the second, third, fourth, or fifth round. I think he gets a late finish in this fight.
I've had Aljamain Sterling pegged as a future champion for a long time, and I'm not going to go back on that. I think Jan is great. I think he just happens to be the champion right now in one of the toughest divisions in the UFC. And I don't know if anyone's going to be able to retain this title for more than 2 or 3 straight defenses, if I'm being honest. I think Aljamain gets it done. I think he wins a decision. I think the grappling makes a difference, and he wins a decision.
Oh, I have to go with the champ, and it pains me because I think Aljo has made a lot of really great changes and a lot of great improvements over these last kind of 3, 4, 5 fights. But Petr Yan just looks like a different breed in there. He's happy to step into the fire. He's happy to fight in a phone booth. And I think his takedown defense will be enough.